Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om. Salutations to all. My audio is clear? So, we are seeing about Bhagwan Rishabhdev in this 5th canto, and we saw in the 4th canto, at the end, it was said that Rishabhdev ji, he was moving around once and he happened to be in Brahmavarta, and he gathered his children, 100 children he had. Bharata was the Sreshta of all of them. And so he gathered all of them and he gave them one discourse. He gave his thoughts, he shared with them. So today we enter into this 5th chapter. And he gave this in public to all his children. So this is the advice that a father is giving to his sons. This is the advice that one should also take up. Every parent should listen to this, and this is the knowledge that the parent has to give to the children. And also, why does he give it in public? Because if the children for some reason don't apply, then there are people who can remind them, who can caution them if they are getting distracted. And also he is a king, and he is going to anoint one of them as his successor. So the Praja also will know what did the king advise before he left. So that's why he does it in public. Now, very beautiful are these verses which come now. So first verse of this 5th canto, 5th chapter is Rishabha Vacha Nayam Deho Deha Bhajam Loke Kashtan Karman Arhate Vidbhujam Ye Tapo Divyam Putrakaye Na Satvam Shuddhe Dyasmad Brahma Saukhyam Tvanantam. So, very beautifully he says that Na ayam dehaha deha bhajam naloke. This human body that we have got on this earth, this is Niraloka, it does not deserve to be put through so much of hardships just for some sense enjoyments. Because this body is going to be consumed by various creatures. Vidbhujam ye. Then what should this body be used for? Tapo divyam. Do austerities, attain the divinity, realize the truth. do actions such that it will purify the mind, sattvam yena shuddhyed, and through that purity of mind, Brahma Saukhyam to Anantam, one will experience the infinite bliss of Brahman. So, here is the first advice of the parent to the children. That what should a parent do? The parent should first make the purpose of human life clear. For that, of course, the parent has to have that clarity. And that's why one has to study, understand what is the purpose of human body. So having got a human body in this human realm, it should not be wasted in just some sense enjoyments, because finally the body will become one with the earth. It will get eaten up by various creatures. So then what should one do? One should put the efforts, live a divine life, live in austerity, live in self-control, live in simplicity, and do actions dedicated to Bhagwan to purify the mind. And what to do with that purity of mind? That pure mind will have jignasa to know the truth, who am I, to know our oneness with the Supreme, and experience that permanent happiness that we seek. Everybody seeks supreme happiness. Nobody wants to be miserable, but where one is seeking is in the wrong direction. So he says, Brahma Saukhyam to Anantam, that infinite bliss of Brahman one will experience through this body. And this is the most precious opportunity in the human life to speed up that evolution. So this is the first thing that he says to his children. And of course, what we discussed, that he tells this in the open to all, in the presence of all the praja, so many people and great rishis, sadhus, brahmanas, in presence of all of them, he's saying all this. So for them also it becomes clear that as praja, what is our role? That even we, because see, even praja is considered as children. For the raja, praja is also like child only. So one does not discriminate. Oh, these are my children and these are not. A raja is supposed to be like a mother and father, like a parent for the whole praja also. And so though it is said that he gives this to his children, 100 of them, it is actually meant for all. Imagine if the praja also is very clear about this, what is the purpose of human life? Why are we here? Otherwise, how many people, what one struggles through life without knowing what is the purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why should I get married? Why should I get educated? Why should I get a job? Why should I work? And all this one goes through so much of worries in all these. And sometimes one friends, what is the point? Anyway, life is so temporary. One is going to drop the body. See, this logic here is this: life is temporary, body is perishable. So use it to realize the imperishable. Now, what can be a better use of this human life than that? One may say the same logic for indulgent life also. Charvakas say the same thing or not? Who has seen the next life? Life is so temporary. When will we ever get this chance again? It will not come. And there's only one life. So eat, drink, and be merry. So Charvaka also can give the same logic to conclude that there is nothing greater than this body. What we see alone is real. Eat, drink, and be merry. And a wise man also uses the same logic. But the conclusion is not the same. Why? Because one knows that there is something which is invisible, which is the Brahman, which is what we seek and which is our true self. And this body alone is not, he will further even say that body is not even real. That is the difference the wise man has and this Charvaka. Charvaka thinks body alone is real. Materialist. Charvaka means a materialist. So here he says, use this body, his human life, and use this for doing tapasya to attain purity, purity to realize Brahman. Full path is clear. Why should I not engage in sense enjoyment? I engage in it once at a particular stage in life, but outgrow it. Because that is not permanent and that will only lead to dissipation of energy and building more karmas, that's all. So that is the first shloka he says. Nayam deho deha bhajam loke. So now, second one he says, how to attain this purity of mind? Mahat seva dvaramahur vimuktehe tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachitta prashantaha vimanyava suhrida sadhavo ye. What is the door to mukti? Mahat seva dvaramahuhu vimuktehe. The door to liberation is serve the wise people, serve the great devotees, serve those who have realized this truth. So he says, you serve them. That is the open door to liberation. And tamodvaram yoshitam sangi sangam. One who is indulgent in sensual enjoyments, especially connected to the opposite gender, says that is the door towards suffering only. Tamodvaram. Tamodvaram here is translated as door to hell. He will give the reasoning early, as we go ahead also. But the point is, it will only waste energy. And that fascination for sense enjoyments and the opposite gender, etc., will create more bondage. And so he says, a wise person will spend time in serving. Now, Mahat Seva does not mean only serving at a physical level, but Mahat Seva, the greatest service, is to live the knowledge that one has got from great people. It may be teachers, it may be sadhus, it may be sannyasis, it may be even grahastis who are great Mahatmas, it can be any, great Bhakta of Bhagwan, anybody. Whatever knowledge one has got, one tries to live that knowledge, one tries to surrender to Bhagwan, develop more bhakti, and at the physical level, whatever seva one can do, of course one should do. But many people think, we don't get opportunities to serve the great people. How will we get liberated? Are satsang, what you are listening to, apply that. That is the greatest seva. Additionally, yes, wherever opportunities are there, go and serve. It can be serving the organization which the great master has established. That is serving his vision only. That is serving him only. Him or her, whoever the master may be, great person may be. Mahat seva. So, purifying the mind through this Mahat Seva, through tapasya. And he gives a caution, he gives a warning saying that you can go towards liberation through Mahat Seva, or you can go towards hell by dissipating energies and wasting this human opportunity. Mahantaste samachitta prashantaha. Cultivate these great qualities. What are these qualities? They are those who utilize this life for such qualities to be developed. They are great. What are these qualities? Samachittaha, who are equanimous. Prashantaha, who have surrendered to the Supreme, and so they are very quiet and peaceful. Vimanyavaha suhrida sadhavo ye. And they don't have anger. Manyu means anger. Vimanyaha, meaning no anger. So free from anger. Suhridaha, who are very polite, kind-hearted. And sadhavo ye. Sadhu does not mean formally who are renounced only. Sadhu literally means a good person, a pious person. Eva maishe krita sauhridartha janeshu deham bharavartikeshu griheshu jayat majarati matsu na priti yukta yavadarthascha loke. So then he says that those who think that bhakti offered to Bhagwan, yeva mayi ishe, to me, the Supreme Lord. So Rishabhdev ji says, I am that Supreme Lord who has come. Rishabhdev ji is avatar of Bhagwan Vishnu only. So, mayi ishe krita sauhridarthaha, that all the love offered to me as the only object of human pursuit, such people, they are the Mahan, or what was said earlier, na Mahan Taste. They are great who understand that this love offered to Bhagwan is the object of human pursuit. So one is Mukti, another is Bhakti. So he says that is the main object of human pursuit, and they don't delight in this dehe janeshu dehambara vartikeshu. Those who are considering this body alone as supreme, and those who are engaging in all those pursuits which nurture this body identification. Griheshu jayatma jarati matsu. Nor they are engaged in this, engaged in the sense, nor they are attached to this house and wife and children, this worldly riches. And they have no selfish interest in the world. They are just maintaining the body bus. Napriti yukta yavadarthascha loke. So they maintain the body bus. Beyond that, they are not wanting to increase the wealth and increase the power and increase the, I have one house here, one house there, one branch here, one branch there. Not interested. Please remember, this is not escapism. This is somebody who has understood the object of human life and is putting efforts to live, like first verse said, in tapasya, in sadhana, in developing bhakti. So there is purushartha and there is sattvic effort, and there is the object of human life is to surrender. That one is engaging in that. One is not becoming lazy, lethargic, escaping from duties, and that is not what is said here. One should not take one shloka out of context and then say this is what the Bhagavatam is saying. No, it is saying that one lives a higher way of life, one lives a sattvic way of life, and duties which are to be done. They don't strengthen our dehatma bhav. Our duties don't strengthen dehatma bhav. Our pleasure seeking tendencies and our mind getting distracted by sense attachments, those create trouble. So he says that they are not attached to these worldly pleasures. Then why does a person commit this sin? How does a person get distracted and commit papa karma, etc.? So he says here that when one endeavors to satisfy the senses and one has become so attached and dependent on the senses, then that person definitely errs. Because there is no limit. Senses want more and more. Craving will be there. Initially, one is within the boundary. After that, the boundaries will be crossed because one wants more. And so here he says that an erring soul commits sin only when he endeavors to gratify his senses. So he says, I don't regard those actions as good from which has followed this body, which though really non-existent is a source of misery to the jiva. See that. Sadhumanye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadehaha. The body is not real. The first line when he said that, this body will be is perishable and it is consumed by various animals. The point there is that it is actually not even real. And behind that, we have put so much of energy, effort, resources to please it. So he says, and that becomes the cause of further new bodies. So he says, I don't consider those actions which become the cause of rebirth. So he says, I don't consider them as good because they are actually a source of misery. So why sense indulgence and enjoyment? It is not that Bhagwan is saying you suppress the desires and don't enjoy, don't live a very dull vegetable type of existence. He is not saying that. He is saying the consequences are very clear. One who is attached to the sense enjoyments and who goes on depending on this body and does efforts to please this body through whatever, eating, drinking, music, dance, so many methods are there. Through all this, what will happen? If one is main focus is that, if the purpose has become enjoyment. So the first line he made the purpose very clear. The purpose is do actions to purify the mind, through that attain Brahma Jnana and live in austerity. If the purpose is not Gyan, if the purpose is Bhoga, then he says that will create more desires. To get more desires fulfilled, new bodies one has to take. And how much pain is there in that birth, in the whole life process, then death, then again rebirth, continuous suffering. So he says they are actually a source of misery to the jiva. But jiva does not see. The jiva is deluded by maya. So the jiva thinks the happiness is in that. So he says, I don't consider those actions as good, which become actually the cause of the birth. And they are actually a source of misery. That is proper jnana. To see something as it is called jnana. To see something opposite. That what is a source of misery, I am seeing that as a source of happiness. Sense pleasures. And what is a source of happiness, which is Brahma Saukhyam Anantam. So tapasya, bhakti, sharanagati, seva, these are all sources of real happiness. This the mind sees as painful. So he opens the eyes. Now see, all this is telling his children. So one is for their uddhar, for their individual liberation, for their mukti, for their clarity in life. Other is even that society which values jnana, which values tapasya, which values selflessness, service, that society will really progress. Bharat became the Vishwa Guru in many fields and especially here in this Adhyatmic Jagat because this was valued. And people have lived like this. You see how Bharat Raja will live after Rishabhdev ji becomes, he renounces, he goes, and Bharat Raja becomes the king, and then how he lives. After him, our country is named Bharat. So the point is this, how this knowledge can make such a big difference if we get it earlier. And so the advice he gives to the children is this. Now, how much the children follow, don't follow, that is also dependent on their karma. But do parents give this knowledge or not? It is a duty of the parent. You will see further one very, very powerful shloka comes, that why this knowledge has to be given. So now having said this, he says that the jiva does not realize one's nature as Atma because of ignorance. He says the real nature of the soul remains obscure due to ignorance. Till when? Only so long as inquiry is not done. See, we think this is real, happiness is in the world outside, I am this body. So we are living without any inquiry. Vedanta says, Arey, you are not this body, you are not this jiva, this world is not real, Brahman alone is the truth. Then one is shaken out of one's most fundamental assumptions. Then one starts inquiring, Acha, I am not this, then who am I? Then one starts inquiring. Through the satsang, this will happen. So he says, so long as the inquiry is not done, yavanna jijñāsata atma tattvam, till that who am I inquiry does not happen. Inquiry into who am I, not inquiry into the world. That is, objective sciences have developed like that. which at till one point one may even do, but after some point one has to turn, saying, enough now, I've inquired into the world outside, there is no happiness there. Then what is left? I. Who am I? So jignasata atma tattvam. Yavat kriyasthavadidam mano vai karmatmakam yena sharira bandhaha. So he says here that till one doesn't inquire about the truth, so long the action one goes on performing, and this mind is prompted by the Rajoguna to keep acting, and those actions, what will they do? They will lead the jiva to more and more body identification, because they are meant to gratify the body, and they will become the cause for further births. So this cycle goes on. Now, because of this attachment to karma, the jiva does more karma, which gives rise to vasanas, which create more karmic bondage, which create more further births. So he says, how will this get out? How will this break? So one solution he gives is, so long as there is no love for me, Lord Vasudeva, the jiva is not rid of its identification with the body. See this. Those who study Vedanta must be very clear about this. There is no way to get out of body identification without bhakti. Impossible. If one sits and thinks that, oh, I will meditate on only Brahman, then meditation on Brahman will not happen unless bhakti is there in the heart. It is not some dry state. Oh, nameless, formless, attributeless, so I just meditate on that. I'm not a bhakti variety. There is no question of you are not a bhakti variety. All of us have emotions. How we express, that's a different matter, and how much intensity it is, and what is the proportion of emotions in us compared to the logical thought process. All that may be differing from one person to other person. But without bhakti, so very clearly he says, Pritirna yavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. So clear. Bhakti has to be developed. There is no other way to drop body identification. Either Ishwar Bhakti has to be there, or Guru Bhakti, which is again translating to Ishwara only. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. Full stop. So, where will one escape Bhakti? Jnana and Bhakti, they will go together only. Gurudev used to say they are the wings, two wings of a bird. How can a bird fly with only one wing? Both wings are required. Jnana and Bhakti, both are required. If Bhakti is not there, Jnana will not be able to take off. If Jnana is not there, Bhakti will not be able to take off. So here he says this. So earlier he spoke about Brahma Gyan, then Mahat Seva. Now he says about surrender to Bhagwan. So all this has to come together. See, these are precious things that a parent has to tell the children. Tell them about knowledge. Tell them about who you are. Tell them about how to serve great exalted souls. Find them, get satsang, then only you will find them. Live in self-control. Do this bhakti of Bhagwan, and that samskar will come when from childhood the parent is also living like that, and the child also sees and follows. The parent only is not, parent is living like this, Yoshita Sangi Sangam, and enjoying sense pleasures and thinking that enjoyment is the goal of life. Chalo, let us both of us enjoy together. Enjoy, no doubt, but also tell this. The bigger picture has to be clear, and then show by example. That is important. It won't happen only by saying. Rishabhdev ji himself was living like that. So now he says this, Deha Yogena Tavat. Then he says that Yadana Pashyat Yayatha Guneham Swarte Pramatta Sahasa Vipaschit Gatasmritir Vindati Tatra Tapan Asadya Maithunyama Garamagnaha. So he says that this jiva, oblivious of its own good, till it does not come to realize to come to its senses and realize the activity of the indriyas as unreal, the fool soon forgets its own essential nature and finding a home providing sexual enjoyment suffers torments of various kinds. So what are the consequences of this? He says that the union as husband and wife of a man with a woman, the wise speak of it as another knot binding their hearts together. This is the double knot. Umsastriyam mithuni bhavametam tayor mitho hridaya grantimahuhu ato griha kshetra sutapta vittaihi janasya moho yamaham mameti. So here he says that the wise speak of it as another knot. See, what is the first knot? This is the second knot, double knot it is called. So one knot is the knot of ignorance. So what we say Hridaya Granthi is avidya, kama and karma. Ignorance, selfish desire and actions, selfish actions. That already he explained earlier, that not knowing how one's nature is the self, then one has desires and one is bound to action, and those actions create more actions and more bodies. That is the first knot. How many parents will tell children that we are bound with a knot? We don't know only. And this is one knot which each individual is having in their heart. Then this is the second knot, he says, the union as the husband and the wife. Pumsa striyam mithuni bhavametam. That binds their hearts together. What is that? Tayor mitho hridaya granthi mahuhu. And ato griha kshetra sutapta vitta. So griha kshetra suta apta vitta janasya mohaha. 5. One gets bound to these 5 because of this relationship of the husband and the wife. So it is due to this knot that a man erroneously regards a house, the fields, children, kinsmen, wealth as himself, as either himself or his own. Aham and mama, that comes. It all is mine. It started because of ignorance in one's heart. Then one wants enjoyments. Then one has this bond. And then one creates one family. Then one says, these are my children, this is my wife, this is my land, this is my money, these are my relatives. Forgetting that my nature is infinite Brahman. See, again, there is no problem. Now, please remember, who is saying this? Rishabhdev ji. Is he married or not? Yes, he is married. Did he have children or not? Yes, he has children. So it is not the marriage by itself which is a problem. There are people who are not wanting to marry, or those who feel that marriage is a bondage and so they are suffering in that marriage. They will quote all these verses and they'll say, see, this is what is said here. That's why don't get married. Arey, Bhagwan Rishabhdev himself is married. He has children and he is saying this. This is the way the human being gets attached to this. So this mamata has come and that is what binds. By itself it will not bind. Nothing it will do. If one has gone into it with this clarity, that it is an ashram which I need to get into so that I will purify the mind and serve the Lord and then attain the bhakti for Bhagwan and get the Brahmagyan. It is a process to exhaust the desire. Grihastha ashram is meant for exhausting desire and getting bhakti and vairagya. It is not meant for fueling desires. It is not a justification for uncontrolled indulgence. And today people don't want to marry and want to have uncontrolled indulgence. Then the purpose of life is bhoga only. Where is the purpose of life as yoga to realize the truth? Then one is wasting the human opportunity. So Shastra says from that standpoint, we have to understand it properly. Otherwise one will get confused. Then one will say, then why should I marry? The issue is not man and woman coming together and living as a husband and wife. The issue is the attachment that comes because of that. Then he says that this hard knot in the shape of the mind formed in the heart of this jiva by its karmas gets loose. When this hard knot gets loose, then person gets vairagya. How the hard knot will get loose? Through all that which was said earlier. And now further he will say, explain many other qualities also. That through all this hard knot can become loose. So now from this ninth verse up to this 14th verse, there are so many qualities which are listed to loosen this knot. So he says, adore me, depend on me, the pure self and the guru of all. Then be free from the thirst for enjoyment, endure the pairs of opposites, realize that a living being is beset with calamities everywhere, not only in this world, even in the other worlds. Then through a spirit of inquiry, through asceticism and abstaining from actions done with selfish motive, meaning do actions dedicated to Bhagwan, through that this knot can become weaker. Then listen to the stories of Bhagwan every day, he says. Katha of Bhagwan every day. See, mat karma bhir mat kathaya cha nityam madeva sangad maddeva sangad guna kirtanan me. 19th verse, 11th verse. So he says, listen to my stories every day. Then have sangha of those devotees who consider me as the supreme. Then sing my praises. Through even-mindedness, tranquility and freedom from animosity, this knot will become weaker. Through a desire to give up identifying oneself with the body, house, etc. Careful study of the scriptures, dealing with the spirit, meaning Atma. Living in solitude, controlling the breath, the indriyas, the senses, the mind, Shraddha in the saints and in the Shastra, through contentment, continence, constant vigilance in doing one's duty, control of the tongue, through wisdom illumined with realization, and to see everyone as divine, and through deep meditations, equipped with firmness, diligence, discretion, a clever man should tear this veil by the name of the ego. These are all the methods given, so many of them. So if anybody wants to see, anybody wants to know how to practically live spirituality, these are the shlokas, these are the instructions which are given. So he says, and all this he has told his children. So he is told what is the goal of life, how to purify the mind, what is its importance, what are the pitfalls of living a selfish life, and how to develop this bhakti, how to drop these knots of the heart. What a beautiful discourse. Then he says that remaining vigilant, he should completely shake off by this means as taught by his preceptor, meaning have a guru. One can't do this by oneself. One should find a guru. And if one's demand is there, a guru will come. Bhagwan will provide what he has to provide. He will do his job. Our demand has to be there. So he says, from the guru, as taught by his preceptor, the bondage in the shape of this knot in the heart, this hridaya granthi has to be removed. And this is brought about by ignorance. It is where all these latent tendencies of karmas, they are deposited. So that's the causal body. The ignorance and the vasanas, there is all the karma, the seeds of karma are the vasanas. So in the causal body, all this is there. So one should do this, all these steps one has to follow. And anena yogena yathopadesham samyak vyapohyo parameta yogat. So one has to practice yoga. You contemplate deeply, meditate, and drop this hridaya granthi. Bandham avidyaya asadita mat pramattaha. Asadita, asaditam apramattaha. With great alertness, apramattaha is great alertness. One has to shake off this bondage by following all this with great alertness. Now comes a very important shloka. See now, this portion now, 15 to 18. In that he says that a king, a father, or a preceptor, whoever aspires to reach my abode or looks upon my grace as the sole object of human pursuit, should thus instruct his ignorant subjects, sons, or pupils, and should in no case urge them to selfish actions. So that all these three, the king, father, preceptor, they must do this. They should not get angry with them, even if the subjects or the pupils or the sons or daughters, they don't follow this because they are young, they have their own karmic bondage. You tell them what you have to tell them and give them the knowledge. Immediately they may not start living like this. They also have come with their karmic bondage. So don't get angry with them, knowing that they erroneously regard such actions as the only way to happiness. They don't know and they have come with ignorance, so they also will act in that way. So have compassion, have kindness, be accommodative, and also be very clear that don't engage them into activities which will create more attachment. At their stage of life, what they have to be given, give them, let them outgrow it, enjoy it in a dharmic way, outgrow it. Make it very clear and they will outgrow. So, but don't engage them more into selfishness, into bondage, into attachments. Why? Because by doing that, one is harming them and one is putting them into this cycle of birth and death more and more. Now, see, this is a big responsibility of a king, of a father or a parent, and of a guru. Because if one takes them on the path of bhoga and makes them feel that that is the purpose of life, again I'm saying, by itself enjoyment or marriage or duties or work is not an issue. If the mindset is that this is all life is, then one has bound them in the cycle of birth and death. If one has not given the knowledge clearly, and on the contrary, one has done the opposite to strengthen the wrong knowledge, then one has put them more and more into bhavbandhan. So he says that he would be throwing the blind fellow into the abyss of metempsychosis, which is transmigration. Nipatayan nashtadrisham hi garte. That's what he said here. Then he says, men who crave for objects of sensuous enjoyment alone, possessed as they are by inordinate lust for such enjoyment, are really themselves blind to their well-being. That is why they enter into enmity with another. So they are attached to sense pleasure, then they fight with others also. And they have no idea of the endless misery which lies in store for them because they are deluded. Seeing such foolish people steeped in ignorance, no sensible and compassionate man who is himself aware of what is really good would urge them to resort to such ignorance again. And one analogy is given. If there is a blind person who is following a wrong track, you won't tell them to continue the wrong track. No, you tell them and say, no, that will not lead you to your destination. You have to turn, come this side. A compassionate person or person who has vision and clarity, seeing somebody going wrong way, will at least help them, not push them into more of that same wrong thing. How many parents do the same thing? Push the children into bondage. They themselves are in bondage. They have seen it also. They have understood at least some part of it, if not to this depth. But still they continue. All these three are very great roles: king, parent and guru. Because one's mindset will affect others. So one has to learning, keep refining, keep growing in one's knowledge, get more clarity, give up ignorance, and then share that with others. Otherwise, one's wrong notions transfer to others also, and then they also go into more bondage. Now, this is a shloka which is very powerful in this whole chapter. Gururnas sasyat svajano na sasyat pita na sasyat janani na sasyat daivam na tatsyat na patischa sasyat namo chayedya samupetya mrityum. Very powerful shloka. What does this say? Guru na sasyat. That person is not a guru. A relationship, a particular relative, swajano na sasyat. That swajana is not a relative. A father is no father, a mother is no mother, a deity is no deity, nor is a husband who is unable to redeem his pupil, relation, son, votary, or wife fallen into the whirlpool of transmigration. This is the kartavya. Bhagavatam says, if a father is not able to bring the child out of the cycle of transmigration, he is not a father. If a husband is not able to do that for the wife, he is not a husband. If a guru is not able to do that to disciple, then that person is not a guru. Meaning, waste is that relationship and you have not fulfilled the purpose of that relationship. One may say, oh my God, this is terrific. See, the purpose is only that one has to awaken oneself and awaken others. How long will one continue in this mithya jagat, going round and round, cycles and cycles of birth and death? And having got a human body, this is the best thing one can do, is to know the truth and wake up to realize, array, this is all not even there, it is unreal. As long as one is in the dream, one thinks of dream pleasure and dream enjoyment, very nice. But when one wakes up, then one realizes, oh, it didn't exist at all. Simply I was engaging in that and getting affected. So that's why he says here, this very powerful shloka, that guru is not a guru, that father is not a father, that husband is not a husband, that relationship is not a relationship. That deity is not a deity who does not bring out their son, their wife, or their pupil, or their relative from this whirlpool of transmigration. Because if one is blind, the dependents who are there, they are blind as though, and they have to be dropped. If they are not leading us to Bhagwan, they are not doing their duty, then if one has to drop them, one has to drop. You see, very interesting it is that this example which are given here, if you see the people, some of the great bhaktas, they left. Like see, Bali Raja, he did not follow what Shukracharya ji told him, that, don't keep up the vow, the promise that you gave of 3 steps of land. Shukracharya said, don't follow, this is Vishnu who has come in the form of a Vaman. But Shukracharya is the guru, but Bali Raja, he had given the promise, so he didn't follow his guru. That is what led him to Mukti in this context. So that guru who does not bring this disciple out of transmigration is not a guru. And it is not wrong to go against that instruction. So that's one example, is the Bali Raja for the guru. Then Vibhishan for Swajana. He left Ravan. Though unfortunately we keep saying Ghar ka bhedi Lanka dhaaye. It is not that Vibhishan ji is Ghar ka bhedi. Ravan is the Ghar ka bhedi, actually. Why? Because everybody told him, his wife, his brothers, Vibhishan and Kumbhakarna both, then his own forefathers, his own uncle, even Marich had told him before. Everybody told him that what you are doing is wrong, just return Sita, don't have enmity against Bhagwan Ram. But he didn't listen. So Lanka got destroyed because of this Ravan. He is a Gharka Bhedi, not Vibhishanji. But we are deluded fools. We glorify Ravan and then look down upon Vibhishanji. So Swajan, Vibhishanji left, Ravan, he came. So one is Guru, one is Swajana, then father. So Prahlad, his own father is telling him not to chant the name of Bhagwan. He didn't listen. Because what all these people are doing is not going to help to come out of cycle of birth and death. It will push one more into it. So in such context, to rebel is not a problem. So Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad is for father. Mother, so Bharatji is example of the mother. That Kaikeyi told Bhagwan Ram to go away into the forest and she wanted her son to be the king. Bharatji didn't accept it at all. And he said, I will go to the forest and I'll bring Bhagwan back. He was very angry with Kaikeyi. So, mother is no other. Then, deity. So, there's a story of this Khatwang Raja. He came to know that he has few moments left. He stopped all other desires that he had, dropped his body identification then and there and realized the truth. His intensity of realization was so high. He stopped all material desires. He didn't want to become Indra and all that. Indra offered his position, he said nothing to him, I don't want. Because he came to know that my life is going to end soon. Then, so Devata, then husband. So here the examples are given that this Darukavana, in that Darukavan, these husbands, they were fighting against Bhagwan. Shivji came as a young mendicant and he was asking Bhiksha. And Vishnu Bhagwan came as Mohini. And all these husbands, they got carried away by Mohini, and these wives, they went behind Shankar Bhagwan, who came in the Bhikshu group. Then they realized, the husbands realized, oh, there's some Maya. And they say all this is happening because of that Bhikshu. So they started attacking Bhagwan. Wives had realized, he is Bhagwan, but the husbands didn't realize, so they attacked. So at that point in time, the wives, they didn't support their husbands. So like that, these are examples given here that if these relatives who are so supposed to be so close to each other, even in these close relationships, if bhakti is not encouraged or if jnana is not encouraged, if a person is not helping to come out of the cycle of birth and death, then they are not doing their kartavya. And so here, this is a very, very powerful shloka. Now, some more of this is there. We will take up in our next class. For today, we will stop here. This Upadesha of Rishabhdev ji is very beautiful. So, we will continue and take in our next session. You are able to hear? Why is this happening?
मंगल आरती प्रिय मंगल मंगल कांति हसन दसन की मंगल मुरली मंगल आरती मंगल गणित श्री हरि मंगल सेवा सब चर की मंगल सिर चंद्रिका की मंगल छवि मंगल मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की मंगल अति कटी रे सखी मंगल चित मंगल मंगल शोभा मंगल माधुर्य मंगल गीता मंगल कृष्ण जनता मंगल मंगल चरण अरुण तनुवन मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन मंगल जुगल प्रिया मंगल श्री राधा मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम मंगल मंगल आरती मंगल आरती आधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम् नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतो यमग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वम् तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।